Yes, I'm Hetty Simeos, and on May 6, 2021, I became a bereaved mother when my beautiful son Victor died in Seattle, 3,000 miles away from his home state, from his parents, whom he loved, from his family. He was working there remotely. He had a high level position and was there temporarily just looking for places to live. And so on that day, when on about 16 days, he took the COVID shot on April 20th, and on 16 days later, he died of an aortic dissection. It was sudden. I had been speaking to him the day before. We were laughing. He would call me 4 or 5 times a day anyway. So there was nothing for me and, he wasn't sick. He was actually dancing with his girlfriend the night before in celebration of a promotion she had gotten. And then on the morning of May 6th, I got the phone call that every parent dreads. I would, Hetty, Victor has passed away. I dropped to my knees. I yelled, and it's been a nightmare ever since. And so, because to bury your child is the worst thing in the world. And so we knew there had to be something wrong. It was just incomprehensible. So they did do an autopsy. They found that he had died of an aortic dissection, but nobody in the family had aortic dissections. The pathologist recommended genetics to see if there was something in the family. We had his DNA tested twice in different labs to make sure. Both of them came back with there wasn't any collagen deficiency disorder. There was nothing that would lead him to have had this. We had our whole family tested. Every member of the immediate family was tested. So when all that came back, we knew it wasn't that. In addition, the ER doctor suspected that he had a pulmonary embolism just because he died so quickly. He died probably within 2 hours of calling, 911. So he thought it was a pulmonary embolism, and he actually asked his girlfriend, did he have the vaccine? And she said yes. So that clued us in that, the vaccine would very likely be the culprit. And we set out we spent over 2 years trying to find the evidence that would lead us to conclude what was the truth behind my son's death, what caused my son's death. And that truth has just come out in the paper that you have before you, which has been a journey of, talking to numerous people, having lots of research done. And it's been, we can talk about all of that as you wish. Well, you have to understand that we live in New York. New York was ground zero. Every day, the governor was telling us 1,000 people died. Today, another 1,000 people died. So everybody was in deep fear, including my son Victor, who visited us quite often. My husband was hesitant. And he was, but it was very hard to find the information we needed to make an informed decision. There were some doctors speaking out, but they were immediately squashed. And then, you're left with, well, do I go with these, what they called fringe doctors, or do I go with the doctors, the FDA, the CDC, who we've always had a trust in, which now I've learned we shouldn't be trusting them, but we've had a trust in, our government agencies to do the right thing. So we were conflicted. Yes, we all took the vaccine, but we were somewhat conflicted. But the fear that we experienced and the keeping us in our homes, unable to talk to our neighbors. I mean, one time we went to, wish my mother happy birthday. She lives 10 minutes away. We had to have signs outside just waving to her from her, she's at the door, and the whole family is arriving just to wish, because it was so crazy that you couldn't even go wish your mother a happy birthday. My son, Victor, was an amazing person, but he also started to experience some of the fear, but he questioned. my husband questioned the most. He says, "I'm not so sure we should do this." He was reading about the ferrets that were dying, and here in, I don't remember the study. But he did not want to be the one, quote, to be responsible for the death of grandma or grandpa if we didn't get the vaccine, because that was a very, very powerful propaganda that they used, and they knew it was going to be powerful. And so every time, for example, my husband went to Costco or anywhere, and came home, took off the clothes, took the showers, whatever, my children would still say, "But don't go there, don't go anywhere, because you could bring home the virus, and we won't even know it, and we could go visit grandma and we'll give it to her." This is the kind of fear we were living in that caused us to lose our critical thinking, because people with a lot more common sense did not take the vaccine, and therefore we dropped our guard. And Victor was the last in the family to take the vaccine. I actually was first, and I wish I had had a reaction that would have caused everybody else in the family to stop. But we were not in that environment. Everybody else, "Did you get the vaccine? Did you get the vaccine? Did you have did you set up your appointment?" It was like a frenzy, especially in New York. I sometimes say, I wish I had lived in the hills of Appalachia and didn't know anything. Not that they don't know anything, but what was not engulfed in this whole, New York City kind of, environment. So excuse me I love Appalachia. So anyway, so I was just trying to make a, go to the hills. And actually, Victor, he was so nervous about it. He had gone to be with his girlfriend who was in another state. And he was actually looking for rental homes for us to leave New York and go there, because he was thinking that we were all, things were going to happen. So anyway, to make a long story short, we took the vaccine, but it wasn't without some, caution. It was more, we didn't know what the right answer was. And then, you just kept hearing about people dying and all this. And you said, well, I guess this is what we have to do. My husband and I had to ramp up and become, what do we do next? What do we have to do? Let's go here. Let's call this one. Let's ask that one. And it was not an easy journey. But if you don't do it, you don't have the answers.
Whether it's the media or whether it's the medical institutions or the hospitals, that they would, the insurance companies, that they'd come at, physicians who are doing the crime of caring for patients with such just vengeance, just hatefulness, is something we should not accept. That's not the kind of medicine you want anywhere in this world.
In order for us to have a medical system that is working, there has to be a certain level of trust. Yeah. The trust in the medical system has been destroyed, at least for me. Early on, they said, we are looking for the signals. Supposedly, they had the VAERS program was going to alert them, and they were going to be diligently watching anything that would be, submitted to VAERS. And if there was a signal, if they saw that people were dying, unexpectedly, that they would address it. Well, I reported my son to VAERS because the hospital didn't do it, even though they were federally mandated to do it. The doctors aren't doing it. The hospitals aren't doing it. I did it. And that's VAERS is really underreported. You have a different system. I believe it's called Yellow Card. I'm not sure. But anyway, so I reported it. It's maybe 1 or 2%, of the true numbers. I reported it. I did not get a call back from VAERS. Nobody contacted me about my son's death. I thought immediately they would be interested in learning what happened to this young man. I wanted to speak to the doctors because I thought maybe they would have experts and be able to tell me what happened to my son. At any rate, I never got any. So I called them, and I was a little bit hysterical. And I said, people are dying around me that I'm speaking to. What's going on? So they sent me a form condolence letter, basically stating that the vaccine is safe and that's been well tested and all of that. So I said, I don't want to say what I said, but I was very angry with that letter. So I called back again and I got the same thing. And then this time they're also recommending that I maybe want to go for, so along the grief therapy along those lines, right? So I felt totally dismissed. Here I am, a mother that just lost her son. Her government is telling her the vaccine is safe, even though, I have no answers. They're dismissing me when they're not telling me about what's really going on. They're just giving me form condolence letters and basically recommending therapy. So from that day on, I completely have lost the trust of the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, and all of our government agencies. I don't believe I'm the only one that has lost trust. Once you lose trust in your agencies and your medical system, you're not going to have a viable medical system. I am just one mother that has lost a child. I know many mothers that have lost children or have, as Cody, or are injured. And it's just not mothers. 15 minutes from me, I know a wife that lost her husband to HLH. It's documented in the BLJ. So there are hundreds of thousands of stories, if not millions. So we're not going to sit back and be told it's safe and effective and think we're going to be trusting you in the future if anything else comes up. And that's basically how I feel.